must. For more than 4,000 years, China has stood as one of the world's great continuous civilizations. Empires rose, dynasties fell, capitals shifted, and philosophies clashed. Yet, the identity of China endured. But the story of China is not a straight line. It is a story rewritten again and again, each chapter reshaped by those who ruled it. Chinese history is not only ancient, it is engineered. From the oracle bones of the Shang dynasty to the imperial archives of the Han and the chronicles of the Ming and Qing, China preserved its past not as a memory, but as a tool for legitimacy, unity, and power. This is the story of a civilization that never truly ended, because it never stopped rebuilding itself. Long before China became China, scattered tribes along the Yellow River shaped the earliest forms of identity. Small villages, pottery traditions, ancestor worship, and bronze rituals laid the foundation of a culture that would endure for millennia. Then came the Shang dynasty, around 1600 BCE. Their story is carved into oracle bones, turtle shells, and ox scapulae inscribed with questions to the spirits. Will the harvest be good? Will the armies succeed? Do the ancestors approve? These bones reveal something essential. Rulers justified their power through a cosmic relationship with heaven and the ancestors. This belief would shape China's destiny. Around 1046 BCE, the Zhou dynasty rose. But military victory alone wasn't enough. They needed moral legitimacy. So they created one of the most influential political ideas in world history: the mandate of heaven. This doctrine declared that a ruler governed with heaven's approval. But if he became corrupt or cruel, the mandate was withdrawn, allowing rebellion. It was brilliant. Every future dynasty could claim heaven's blessing, and every fallen dynasty could be condemned as wicked. The mandate of heaven became the engine that powered Chinese history. The Zhou eventually fractured. China plunged into the Spring and Autumn period, and later the Warring States period, centuries of intense conflict. But out of this chaos came a golden age of philosophy. Confucius taught harmony, duty, and moral leadership. Laozi spoke of the Tao, the way. Legalists argued for strict laws and harsh order. These were not just ideas. They were blueprints for ruling China. In 221 BCE, one man united the warring states: Qin Shi Huang, the first emperor. His empire was efficient, revolutionary, and ruthless. He standardized writing, currency, and built the foundations of the Great Wall. Yet, the Qin also feared ideas. They burned books, they buried scholars, they attempted to erase rival philosophies. For the first emperor, history was not a story, it was a threat. When the Han dynasty rose in 206 BCE, they kept the Qin structure but softened it with Confucian principles. Under the Han, China became a vast, confident empire. During this era, Sima Qian wrote the monumental Records of the Grand Historian. But defying the emperor cost him dearly: punishment, humiliation, and suffering. Yet he finished the work anyway. The Han opened the Silk Road, connecting China to Rome, Persia, and Central Asia. China became a global force. And yet, corruption, uprisings, and warlords brought the dynasty down. The mandate had turned once again. After the Han fell, China fractured into northern and southern kingdoms. Buddhism spread through trade routes. Artists, poets, and scholars thrived. Even in division, the cultural identity of China strengthened. Fragmentation did not break the civilization. It reshaped it. The Tang dynasty, beginning in 618, became a beacon of global culture. Chang'an grew into the largest city on earth. Poets like Li Bai and Du Fu reshaped literature. Then came the Song dynasty, an empire of innovation. Gunpowder, the compass, printing, banking, advances in astronomy, agriculture, and engineering. China stood at the forefront of world civilization. In the 13th century, the Mongols swept across Asia. Kublai Khan founded the Yuan dynasty, the first foreign dynasty to rule all of China. China became part of the largest land empire in history. Trade expanded. New cultures arrived. Marco Polo described its wonders to Europe. Yet later, Chinese historians portrayed the Yuan as outsiders. Another example of history being rewritten. The Ming dynasty rose in 1368, restoring Han Chinese rule. They rebuilt cities, strengthened the Great Wall, and constructed the Forbidden City. Admiral Zheng He commanded massive treasure fleets reaching Africa decades before European explorers. But isolation grew. Intrigue and corruption hollowed the dynasty. And the mandate of heaven shifted once more. The Qing dynasty expanded China to its greatest territorial size. But foreign pressure and internal rebellions destabilized the empire. The Opium Wars, the Taiping Rebellion, the Boxer Uprising, each weakened the Qing until the dynasty collapsed in 1912. 2,000 years of imperial rule ended. But China's story did not. The modern era brought revolution, warlords, Japanese invasion, and civil conflict. In 1949, a new government rose, and the rewriting of history began again. Textbooks changed. Heroes were recast. Dynasties reinterpreted. The past became a tool of identity and ideology. Why does China endure? Because China adapts. It absorbs. It transforms. Civilizations fall when they lose their sense of identity. China never lost it, because China never stopped reshaping it. From the mandate of heaven to modern politics, China is a civilization that survives through reinvention. To understand China is to understand a story with no final chapter. A story shaped by power, memory, belief, rebellion, and destiny. A story still being rewritten today. Forever ancient and forever new.